Hello, everybody. My name is HSR,
My name is Chris Chrome.
and we're doing a lyrical breakdown today. So it's not Bonnie. It's Chris and HSR.
What's up? What's up? What's
We're
up?
doing this. So in addition to interviewing Bease, which you can check in the corner and get to know who Bease is a little bit,
Great
he
dude.
has a new single that's coming out today, the day this video is out, not today, the day we're recording this. And we decided to go through it because it has some interesting lyrics. It's why we decided to talk to him in the first place. And we felt we'd show some love and do a little lyrical breakdown. So before we jump into that, we wanted to give some love to Mozart, our Patreon.
What up,
as you
buddy?
can see. And you can join us on Patreon where you can get like early access to the episodes, and you can like join the request raffle where like you tell us what you want to see, and those people in that little tier, y'all get to throw in a request, and then randomly we pick one each month, and it kind of cuts the line that week. So just something to think about. But for this video, how it's gonna work for these lyrical breakdowns is we talk about the lyrics. We don't play the song as much because in general it's just not good for the fair use of things, in our opinion. We could go through it, blah blah blah, play the song and argue it, but really it's about the lyrics and what the song's about. So here's a little clip for y'all to get a taste. Cool. So now we're gonna run through the song. Below, you can we're gonna link to where you can hear what the song sounds like, and you can play along and give it a little listen. But yeah, so let's start talking about the words of this track. And so the first lines are, "We want answers to our
Let's
question."
start off with the name of the song.
Oh, you're right.
Like,
That was silly.
Let's just.
It's called Insurrection, and the album that it's on is called Sedition. So a sedition is the words used to incite insurrection, and an insurrection would be like a rebellion or a counter against the government or the authoritative figure. So it's very much kind of like the mantra, I guess. He had described it as like, well, really the lead single embodying what the album will be about. Beat comes in, you got a little sample there, it's kind of hard, and then he just comes in rapping with, "We want answers to our questions. We don't understand the electoral college. We just want democratic elections." Now I just had to stop there because already there was just shit to talk about.
First line.
Do you understand the electoral college?
So, part of me thinks that the first line was, when I first heard it, was about like elections and like voting and stuff like that. But I also think there might be a part of like school and education about how it's like presented. So that's kind of where I got. But no, I'm not really sure what that line actually meant besides wanting a fair. The part where he goes, "We want democratic elections." I got that he wanted like kind of just equal. Everybody gets an equal vote. Everybody's voice is heard. That's what I understood.
That's fair. And that's a great thing. I'm happy Chris spoke, because I think the point is that the United States' electoral system is kind of wonky in the way that it operates. Mm-hmm. As I understand it, and I'm Canadian, so bear with me, the goal is to have like fair and representative voting. So instead of in the presidential election, people voting for like so they vote for the president or whatever, but really what happens is each state, when you vote for your person, that party gets a seat in the electoral college, and then there's like, I don't know, 480 fucking seats or whatever, and then every state by default gets like 3 states, and then based on your population of your state against the entire country, you get more seats. So California will have like 55 because there's just that many more people compared to like Iowa. And there's a whole bunch of complications in that. But then when you do the election, you don't actually pick the president. You pick like
a representative of your like.
So a person who goes into the electoral college,
kind of like,
then so that like the electoral college is just these people who won based off of the election, and then those people pick the president.
If you may know, is it based like on your town? Like each town has a representative, and
like each area.
Okay.
It's divided up in the kind of way Canada does it, but like it's kind of just confusing at the end of the day. And then in theory, you all could like in theory pick a Republican dude, and then they all just said, fuck it, and vote Democrat. I mean, it doesn't happen like that, but in theory it could. So it's just weird because, like, even though a person may have more votes at the electoral college, they may actually have less votes based off of the popular count, meaning the actual numbers of who voted for who. And so right off the jump, people don't really get the electoral college. Chris thought it was about school and stuff, and that's fair because it's fucking confusing. It took me a minute to even try to wrap my head around it. And even then, I barely get why it's so convoluted.
Right.
And then he's saying that they just want democratic elections where it's just like fairness. So yeah, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the first line. And I'm like, it's pretty well done. Pretty interesting.
A good way to start off, especially like the way with the words, the title of the song, Insurrection, Sedition. It's a good way to start off his message and his point that he's trying to convey.
Yeah. They don't want us having weapons, but protection for our family and possessions is the essence. So a little line kind of like the government wants to take guns away from the people, often based off of, in my understanding of it, off of, oh, they're criminals, they're bad hombres and stuff like that. But he's kind of arguing back, and Bease is saying that really people need these guns to like protect their family and stuff. I know I've seen people in Chicago kind of using that argument with great frequency, like, I need this gun because you never know who's scary in the night and stuff.
Right.
And plus to protect your home or whatever. It's such a different reality up in Canada, but I get where Beast is coming from. I don't know if you have more to add there.
I quoted it down to family over everything. It's kind of very direct the way he said it. Like, they're taking the guns away, but we're using it to protect our families and ourselves. I also feel like there's this sense of like he's trying to also show you like, we live in this bad environment, like there's stuff happening, we actually need this more than you think we do, in a sense.
Yeah. When the U.S. is threatened, they resort to violence and massive military presence. And this is interesting, right? Because it takes like the previous line and it adds an extra element of why you need to protect your family. So on top of whatever's happening in your hood, let's say, you've got the fact that whenever the U.S. feels threatened or somebody doesn't want to play nice with oil or whatever, they seem to go to war with countries or to leave heavy military presences, say like what happens in South Korea there, and this creates a series of global instabilities in terms of like the perceived, like it's interesting if you look at maps of who the world sees as the biggest danger to, like, let's say the global peace. A lot of countries that are not on this continent point at the USA a lot quicker than say other places. So if you really couple those two ideas, they're trying to disarm us, but then they're also poking the bear everywhere. It's a little bit fucked up,
I took it as Beast having a journalistic point of view of how he sees his country, as well as kind of like playing that, for sake of a pun, that trump card of always being ready to attack, ready to violent, like kind of like, oh, you don't want to give us oil? Fine, well, we'll just blow you up and that's it. Like trying to gain that power over fear with fear is what I kind of got from that.
That's fair. And then it goes into spy capabilities, invading our privacy, kids strung out on pills prescribed for anxiety.
Ooh.
So, I mean, this is an interesting line because a lot of people are anxious that, the government's spying on them and blah, blah, blah. So they kind of get all, off and weird about it. But that actually happened. So there really is people spying on you and stuff. In fact, I don't know if it's CSIS or the RCMP. That's the Canadian FBI and CIA. One of them is like really open about how they're not afraid to like hack our phones and spy on us or whatever. But then if you look at the current trend of kids popping Xannies and stuff, and if I'm not mistaken, Xannies are anti-anxiety meds. I could be wrong. So, like you have a whole anxious population of teenagers because forever they've been told they're fucking weird because they're just normal kids being hyper and shit. And school's kind of weird, right? Like the idea of telling kids that you gotta sit there and shut up for like 9 hours and stuff. It's fucking weird. It's just weird. Back in the day, at least the kids did chores so they got their energy out.
I mean, it just came to me right after you said that, sitting down for 9 hours in a school is basically sitting down in an 8-hour, 9-hour job in an office. I mean,
it's a little bit different to be 30 and to be like 8 is all I'm trying to say.
No, for sure.
Then you got to imagine that 8-year-old's been made to feel weird. Now he's a teenager, blah, 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 still can't fit in. Oh, I don't know. Y'all know kids are doing drugs. Like J. Cole just made the fucking album. So I think it's interesting that he's kind of pointing out there's almost like a valid reason for anxiety. At the same time, it's almost like kids are so popped out as though they're all addicted to anxiety. I thought it was a cool line.
I took a little bit more from it actually. I took as the spy capabilities invading our privacies. I took that as we all have got cell phones. We're all on the internet. It's easy for people to just kind of hack our phones and listen to our conversations and stuff like that. So we could
That's
be
true.
paranoid. And two, the part where he was like kids strung out on pills prescribed for anxiety. I agree with the whole ADHD, the conversation where it's fake and we were just told that we're weird and stuff like that. Like that I agree with. But I also think that playing on the social media part, playing on the technology part, we're also kind of like dealing with anxiety as per what we see in like the news, photos and stuff like that. We're like for like maybe feeling like we're not better than one another and stuff like that based on what we're posting on social media and stuff. So I took that away from that line.
That's fair. Mob secretly set fire to oil refineries. To hell with this piety, the sedition appease my diary. I couldn't for the life of me understand what the hell the mob setting fire to oil refineries is. I Googled, I couldn't really find anything that was like that. So
Seems a little accurate.
so unless you found something, I was hoping somebody out there watching this video who's like more familiar with what Beast is talking about could be like, this happened. Google this specific thing, so I could be like, okay, that's what the fuck's going on. But as far as the sedition appease my diary, knowing that it's like his album and how he feels about it is kind of comparable to, let's say, how Scarface felt with the diary. That's
Right.
at least the connection I made off of that. So I thought it was a really cool line. That's about all I got off of that.
Part of me felt like it was just kind of like a setup bar for shouting out his LP. I think it was just to maintain.
We also
that, like,
don't know what that other reference is.
No, I understand. But I think he's also trying to give this knowledge of like stuff that we might not know, stuff that we're not aware of. Like he's trying to give us this truth, like, well, all the oil refineries and the fires that are happening, like this is done by people to cause this for certain bigger goals that they want. But yeah, unless somebody out there knows,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
that's
gonna know.
fair. But then you have politicians succumb to bribery, classic confrontation, good versus evil rivalry. So I actually think his album drop name is more in line to set up this line because on the one hand you have this good versus evil rivalry thing, right?
Right.
So the evil is the politicians who succumb to bribery. So who's the good? The good is his diary, this message he's putting. So it's a classic confrontation, right? So he's positioning himself ethically on the side of good, fighting the evils that be, as in our corrupt politicians. So I really dug that one.
I took as he was basically calling out politicians and putting them on the spot, basically saying that like you act and you say that you're going to try to help the society and all these things, but then when bigger amounts of money come into play, all of that changes. I feel like he can't trust his politics, he can't trust the people that are running for office. So that's what I took from that.
That's fair. And then he goes intellectual erection, conceptual perfection. Try to stifle the sedition I'm manifesting. So it was pretty interesting here, right? And I keep saying that. That's kind of redundant of me, sorry. But he's kind of letting you know a little bit more about how his sedition LP is going, what kind of an insurrection he's looking for, right? Because insurrection inherently you might picture like armed bandits taking over a government, or you might picture protests with smashing up cities, something like maybe the war zone scenes that we may have seen on the news recently. But I think what Beast is trying to really clarify in these lines is that this is about ideas and how his ideas are so different and they're so powerful that he's interested in conceptual perfection. So what's right? Not popular opinions, but the truth of things. And so they need to stifle it, people are going to try to stifle it, whatever. And this is this pure message that he's putting together that's so good that people are going to come at it. And it's basically, yeah, his manifesto of sorts. And so I thought it was nice. It was a good way to kind of culminate where he's coming from with this project.
I agree. I think it was a clever wordplay. He's basically saying like insurrection, rebellion to the government in a smart way. Conceptual perfection is where I kind of got hooked on because I feel like he's talking about his concept and he feels like his concept is perfect and the way that he sees things. And I think that that's a pretty clever thing to kind of put out there and kind of try to show people like I have a good way of doing things if you all just listen to me. So I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, and then the last line of verse 1 is set aside your trifling ways. Willie Lynch got our women led astray. Doomsday is underway. I had to Google. I didn't really know who Willie Lynch was. Apparently, he's a slaveholder who gave a speech or something that taught all the other slaveholders about how to keep the slaves at bay by getting the blacks to hate the blacks. And this tactics can be seen in the hood. I don't have an opinion on the validity of it, but for the sake of saying things, what is disputed if it really happened. But the sentiment of what happened there is still evident. He's saying, listen, we got this beef within ourselves, so we need to put that like to the side. You know, the way this attitude has our women at each other's throats and stuff, this is problematic. And if, you know, really think about it, the doomsday, the end of the world, all the bad stuff seems to already be happening as long as we are turning on each other. It's almost like a symbolic representation of doomsday.
Right.
So I thought that was a pretty powerful, like, we need to get together or else shit's going to hit the fan type message before it kind of flows into the chorus.
Yeah, pretty much the same. We got to stop hating on each other. We have to find a way to kind of deal and figure out our differences because we are going to be the end of ourselves.
Perfect. And then we got the hook, which is insurrection, sedition, come, and it repeats. So if we think about that, an insurrection is a rebellion against authority. Sedition is the words to spark the insurrection. And then come is a call to arms challenging people to join him. So he's saying we need an insurrection. This is my sedition to get this insurrection started. Join me. And that's the chorus. And it's got like this insurrection, sedition, kind of float away. And
he's chopping up the syllable play and the words with the drum beat that's looping in the chorus. It was dope.
Fair enough. So then it flows into the second verse where it continues. Like his flow changes like line to line, so it's not like a super static thing, but in general this is a message driven, like it's more important what he has to say than anything else. And I think he went like at a slower pace to make sure you could understand the words. It's just something I wanted to throw in there. But the first line is, in the 80s, the social fabric decay, demonstrate civil disobedient power play. And what did you take from this?
I took that he's referencing what I understood was back in the 80s, social views on certain people started to change and they were abused and, you know, they were lawfully accused of certain shit. And then people in the position of power would abuse their power and try to do certain acts.
That was vague. I'm going to call it the Reagan crack era situation where you have like, you know, the war on drugs, but the hood is flooded with drugs. But, like, it's not just that. At the same time, you have Wall Street that became hyper evil. Science got capitalized. Like, a lot of really bad shit went down in the 80s that took maybe the ethics of, you know, reality and shattered it. It went from, like, hard work to quick wins. And I'm not saying that this stuff didn't exist in the past, but if you really look at it, what was prioritized as important seemed to be a lot more money driven as of the 80s, just from a top down everything perspective. So I get where he's coming from. And yeah, so he's kind of, I think, also trying to illustrate with the second half of that line that it's a deliberate attempt for people to gain control like this. And he follows it up with, some say hating on Trump is risque, but I plan to rebel forever and a day. Forever and a day happens to be a little romantic sentiment for when people are in love and shit. So you'd get married for like forever and a day and promising your love because it's so powerful that it goes beyond forever. It's like a day past forever.
Right.
So he's kind of letting you know that even if hating on Trump is a risky thing to do, or people don't want to touch that shit because they're afraid of their reputations or whatever, that he feels so impassioned to the truth that he's a rebel against this tyrant forever and a day with that same romantic zeal. Yep, that's what I got from that.
Well explained. Well explained.
Chris is like, I need to talk more. You let me go first next time. All right, Chris, I heard you loud and clear. So this is God's plan. Allah Akbar. I am so sorry if I said that wrong. I'm quoting the guy. It took me some time, but now I finally understand.
I just really got it when trying to understand the teachings of a higher power. Like, it just takes time, and sometimes you got to look to another way to find the answers for whatever it is you're looking for. And he seems to be, believe in God, believe in Allah. But I didn't really get much from that line.
Well, I took it as though he's kind of like he finally has some deeper understanding of life, which is something
Right.
that we took from our phone call with him. And he did tell us he was spiritual and he's read the Bible, he's read the Quran, so he's kind of got some understanding of higher powers and shit. So I took it like he has, through humbling himself out before higher powers, found an understanding of some deeper shit that like he did not have in his youth. But it really ties in, I guess, more to the next line. So he's going cynicism to patriotism, criticism of colonialism, optimism to activism, set some limit for capitalism. So to like take that idea of what he's understanding, instead of being a cynic and just hating shit, and this is my interpretation, of course, he may have meant something different. And so instead of being a cynic, he thinks that you really should be a patriot. And if I think about being a patriot is to defend my country, my people, my shit, and do what's good for my fellow man, would be really patriotic, not necessarily blindly support my country, real patriotism. So criticism of colonialism, I mean, colonialism caused a lot of bad problems, including slave trades and stuff. So I think it's like, to be patriotic is to be critical of colonialism and to be honest with your past and to understand that type of shit. Optimism to activism, so from blindly believing in the future and whatever may come to, taking on more of an activist, rebellious, sedition type fucking point of view, and then set some limits on capitalism. So I like that last little part because it's not like fuck capitalism. Like, if to anyone who just believes blindly that communism is better or socialism is better, I mean, it's a blind statement. It's capitalism isn't inherently evil. It's this limitless evil that controls capitalism that's a problem. So to set limits on capitalism would balance it and create more of a fair trade environment. That's what he's trying to say there, I think.
Nice. I took it as cynicism to patriotism is like one against the other. So you have like patriots, the people who who believe that whatever they're doing is for their country and the love of that. But then you have people who are hating on those people. So I think it's like I think it's like one negative energy to the other. Criticism of colonialism. I took that as people are criticizing the idea of being equal, being one, trying to work together, and they're always trying to be better than one another and trying to do like this like hierarchy of a life.
What do you think colonialism means?
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
think it
just
means like part of colony.
it's like how Britain took over the world and took over countries, and how like Canada used to be a British colony. Like it's kind of like how Africa and all the islands and stuff got like taken was a result of colonialism.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll talk about colonialism after. You can keep going. See, now this is why the song is good. We're gonna learn and learn more.
Well, just with the same concept, optimism to activism, people are encouraging other people to stay active to fight for what they believe in. But from what I'm looking at this like my own personal point of views, right? And I see like people are acting out nowadays in certain ways, like violent acts or like very extreme acts, and there's some people who are like encouraging this, and there's other people that are not, but I don't really see people trying to stop it. Like there's just a lot of like optimism for it spreading around. But yeah, I kind of just got like one to the other in this type of.
Well, colonialism is the policy or practice of acquiring full or partial political control over another country, occupying it with settlers, and exploiting it economically. Like when England took over all those places, and France took over Quebec, and just took, and took and took. I mean, yeah, yeah, that's fine. We'll move on from there. Hard to digest. Devils put poison pills into process, restricting freedom of the press. So for me, this is just like, to counter the God idea, he's got the devil opposing him, and part of the manifestation of this is how there's not really any freedom of press these days. I mean, it's not hard to see that fake news is a thing. Now, I don't like to use fake news the way most people do. I would say by me, fake news would be more of highly dramatized negativity just for the sake of whatever. You can't really speak the truth without whatever. It's just a weird climate for the mainstream news these days. So it's not so trustworthy anymore. And that's about all I got from that one.
Yeah. I just got freedom of press. Media is being controlled, and the play on like the counteracting on the God concept with the devil putting in poison pills, making things worse, trying to put out again like fake news. I got basically the same what you just described.
Yeah, I felt that the last three lines kind of need to be read together since they're all kind of talking about the same thing. Now the globe is in disarray. The United States got beef with Kim. That's Kim Jong-un. I actually don't know how to say his name right. Because he won't do what they say. Dictate in terms, implement sanctions. They want to see him squirm. As far as I'm concerned, catastrophic consequences. North Korea, don't disarm your defenses. Prefer the counteroffensive. So, he seems to be kind of commenting on the bullyish nature of the United States, on how they aren't getting their way, so they put sanctions down and they control, and they are constantly pushing for the disarmament of anybody that could be potentially a threat to them. And it's almost as Bease is saying here, North Korea, don't let the bully take you out. Keep your guns. You gonna need them in the upcoming battle. And I mean, I like the fact that Bease is pointing out how the United States is kind of bullying the world. That's true. I'm with him on that idea. I don't like the idea of North Korea having the nukes that they have and things like that. So, I mean, I'd be okay with de-escalating the situation and whatever, but Beast is totally entitled to his opinion, and I don't hate the fact that he brings something like this into the conversation. So just to be able to have such an opinion and to be able to say it like that is pretty powerful. So it's a cool line to me.
Nice. I got pretty much the same thing. I found it funny. I found it actually kind of funny how like he directly said that the USA is mad with North Korea because they're just not listening and like they're not like they're kind of standing up to the bully figure we've been talking about.
Right.
I didn't really get the dictate in terms, implement sanctions. They want to see him squirm. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't quite get that part of the verse.
It's almost like literally what's happening with the way the United States is negotiating. They put sanctions, which is like they freeze money or trade or something, so that the country feels an economic impact of stuff.
So
and
it's kind of like barbaric like
extortion
extreme,
and shit like that, or not extortion, but like in the ballpark of those kinds of mafioso like tactics that you would expect from like the Godfather to use, but the United States is using legally because I guess they're allowed. I don't know.
Fair. And then I was just kind of like, he's telling North Korea to be prepared for the war. Now, I guess I like his honesty. I appreciate him being honest. Like, look, even though you might kill us or bomb us or whatever it is, we are like, I feel like, you know, my country's going to start a war with you guys and I want you guys to be just as protected as well. But I think it's also coming from a place like somebody cares and trying to like bridge that gap to end that war.
I guess so.
In a way.
Yeah, I guess he's, but I feel it's a little bit more like don't trust my government. They're that sneaky.
Fair.
Fuck
I can see
them.
that.
Anyway, we roll back into the chorus, which we've already discussed. So we are going to bop on over to verse 3, which has, there's a whore in New York Harbor holding a torch with the scales of justice dishonored.
Statue of Liberty.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I don't know. What did you get from that line?
Well, from what I understand of the Statue of Liberty, it was given by the French in terms of like ending a war or something for like peace movement or
Holy
something.
Fuck, I couldn't for the life of me figure out what that was.
Right? Well, that's what I got from it, and I think he's trying to play on the part that like the Statue of Liberty doesn't really stand for liberty. I think that like the context behind it is like super like complex in that it's kind of just like a mockery. I feel like I don't know. I don't really know much about the Statue of Liberty.
I mean, I don't know the full history, but you're right. That's probably got a good point, especially because it's called the Statue of Liberty.
Right.
So even just play on the name alone.
And just to also that he doesn't really feel like he's free in his country,
Right.
and it's standing in the middle of his country. So
it's like a symbol of freedom,
right? So having this symbol of freedom and not feeling free.
Which is why the next one is like, look in the eyes of a snake charmer, instigate an insurrection, serving my school cups of karma. So here we have him, like, you know, seeing this flawed system that we just discussed. It's almost like a snake charmer because everybody believes in how things are the way that they are. And, like, even if you take into account the way people are reacting to the use of the N word in this Kendrick Lamar performance, just seeing, I suppose, for lack of a better word, how ignorant people can be about why people are offended at the situation. It just shows how systematic certain opinions can be. How there's no real ownership on certain cultures to really understand deeper. I'm trying to be like as fucking safe as a camel saying that, but basically what I'm saying is a lot of white folk don't seem to want to like own the fact that there's a reason why people are upset about that word and why you shouldn't maybe say it. It doesn't matter how you feel things should be moving forward. End of the day, you as an individual don't control the future and should fucking be a little more self-aware. So I can kind of see that. So considering the illusions going around of what's popular opinions, having this like snake charmer line, there are a lot of people duped and shit. And so here he says, listen, this insurrection is going to make them face their karma, get them their own real reaction by, you know, again, intellectual awareness and shit.
Nice.
I don't know if you have more there on that
No.
one. So I got a sneaky suspicion the government is tough on crime because they don't like competition. And, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, for some reason, the government's allowed to sell drugs, but if you sell drugs, there's a big problem. In fact, even if you look at, like, weed legalization or something like that, right? So they locked up a whole bunch of people having a dime bag, and then they start legalizing it and selling the shit, you know? Like, it's kind of like... It's weird how they don't want to have competition with a situation, so they look at where they can get the most money, and they end up doing whatever they can to profit and to make money, and they'll just do whatever. So if they can sell pot, you can't sell pot. They can sell cigarettes, you can't sell cigarettes. They can tell you that in Canada or wherever, if you have sex for money, it's illegal. But if you put a camera up and have sex for money, it's legal. So there's some fucking weird shit out there based on permits. And even selling alcohol, you requires permits and shit. Like, they basically, yeah, they control shit. It's fucking weird. You know, anything that they can profit on, you can't do it without their consent. They're all monopolies.
Yep.
Chris is like, I got nothing there either.
Well... No, we're still at. I got a sneaky suspicion.
Yes.
The government like competition. It's self-explanatory. They don't like when they're stealing money for you to steal money. There's not much for me to really say about that.
That's what I just said. So this is my manifesto. Don't panic, but they planning to make Earth a satanic prison planet.
What?
So I'm gonna take the satanic prison planet to mean that.
They're turning into hell?
Like, not so much hell, but this place full of sin, of darkness, of distractions, of like, pain. Like you know how A$AP Rocky was having trouble because he was distracted? Kind of like that. I feel like the idea is that once upon a time, there may have been ethics and goodness out there, but the goal is to really bring to light the darkness in everybody. But to counter that, he has his manifesto, which is... a reason you shouldn't panic, because in his manifesto he's giving you this little prophecy, but then almost going to follow it up. I mean, with feel the euphoria of a glorious warrior fight, uphold the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So while you have this corrupt system who's trying to like keep everybody down and make it hellish conditions, you have him with his words and his album here and his ideas that are coming in to represent the good people. And if you join him on this quest, you're basically a fucking superhero.
Yep. I got fighting for freedom and for the rights that the humans have the ability to say what they have and embrace it. I think he feels like people are afraid or they fear to embrace the rights that they have. Maybe they're uneducated, they don't know what their rights are, but he's letting people know, like, you do have certain things that you can do as a person. You shouldn't feel trapped. You shouldn't feel scared. Like, you're allowed to speak up and do what you got to do.
Yeah, then he's got at the speed of light, extradite poisonous parasites overnight to burn in toxic waste sites. Here he's just kind of like get rid of the bad folk out there. So now that you're gonna listen to this album of his, you're going to acquire the wisdom. You're gonna open up your eyes. You become woke, as they say, and then you have the ability to become a warrior, join in the conquest, slay the people out there, etc. And he's saying once you understand, there's urgency here. You must get out there at the speed of light, the fastest thing possible, to take out these corrupt politicians, to take out these people that are trying to basically, as Chris said, create hell on earth. And he's encouraging you to take heed with your speed. Anyway, yeah.
Yep. No, I got the same. Just exterminate all the people causing chaos. Things need to change super quickly, he's saying, because like, if it doesn't change quickly, we're still just gonna, like, as he mentions, I think, like, in the verse before, doomsday is on its way. So
Right.
he's kind of just reiterating, like, shit's happening, we got to change it. So
And then it kind of ends off with, imagine impassioned assassins take him in action, treat devils with no compassion, no mercy, not even a fraction. Master rapper with incumbent valor, writers Glock clapper, Travis at Polamano cut the lacquer.
well, I wanted to split that in two first.
Okay.
The imagine impassioned assassins taking action part. That was really cool the way he did that. We played with the syllables and those words. But I also took from it is kind of him questioning, like, what happens if the rebellion starts? Like, what happens if I really start the rebellion? What do you think's coming for you? Like,
Okay.
well, that's what I got. Like, that's, and society as a whole takes over.
I kind of took it more like, even if it's your mother, kill her, because you can't have compassion. You need to be merciless in this revolution of sorts that is coming for you, right? Because it's take in action, treat the devils, so the people you're going after, with no compassion and no mercy, not even a fraction. So it's you as this warrior that's kind of joining him on the quest, who has to have no mercy in your conquest to take out the evils that are out there and being bad people and stuff. You see, I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And then for him, just to emphasize it again, he's a master rapper and he's got actual values and shit and actual skills and whatnot. And then he drops his name, Writer's Glock, because that's his weapon and his tool. And they actually sell this little pen that's also a microphone. It's also a USB. So it's literally the Writer's Glock, your utility tool belt. That was fucking dope. And then at Travis at Palomino, which I'm going to just assume is his studio, cut the lacquer, which has to do with the vinyl that would have been on the record. So he's kind of basically saying there, yo, I'm the best fucking rapper there is. Drop the mic out.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's the track. So I don't know. Do you have anything more to add here?
I think the track was super cool. I like the heavy intensity to it. I like the aggressiveness that he has, but not like super angry, but more like aggressive and direct, more stern, and wanting to get that message across. That was really good. The music was produced well. It wasn't like scratchy, floppy type music. Overall, I'm just excited to see how it performs. I mean, I really think that it's a good conversation starter, eye opener, and bringing a new concept to the table.
Yeah, it's true. For those who like the immortal techniques, my camera just fell a bit. That's fine. We're good. We're almost done. For those who like the immortal techniques and like more of the revolutionary type guys, if you really are into that stuff, this dude is somebody you should check out. I think you'll really appreciate his music. I thought this song was cool. Like, it didn't get old. You can really bump it for a minute. It's got this real fist banger fucking anthem feel to it, and I look forward to hearing the rest of the project, seeing what the rest of it sounds like. Like I said, it's gonna be linked below how you can check out the song. We got sent an early copy of it, which was really cool of them, and we thought it was really cool. So we went through it and did it like this. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching it. Don't forget, you can request whatever you want, including your boy or your own music, in our Patreon for this request raffle. So you can request us to review your own album. On that note, have yourself a great freaking week, and let us know what you thought of this and who you want to see us cover moving forward. Peace.
Take it easy.